Good morning, guys. Unfrequented World, and I'm just set up at the feeder this morning shooting with the A7R3 and the Tamron 15600 G2. I've had requests to show you guys the focusing on this camera with the adapters that Sony make, and I've done comparisons before with the ea4, which is the choice to use because this has its own USD motor in it. However, I wanted to take today and show you guys how well this performs with the ea4 adapter, which wouldn't be my first choice, but it still works great with this combination. So I'll show you guys how that works. We'll actually film trying to track some wildlife, squirrels, or whatever comes to the feeder. Then I'll show you guys some beautiful photos that I've gotten with this lens. I have raved about this lens in the past, and I continue to do so. This is my go-to nature lens now. It's on one of my cameras all of the time. So a fantastic lens. I can't recommend it enough. And then the last thing I want to show you guys in today's video is Minolta for Life asked me online to do a comparison between the A7R3 sensor versus another full frame camera. Well, the only other full frame camera I own is the A99. And so I'll do a single shot between each of them. We'll overlap them, and I'll show you guys the actual sensor sizes. They are the same. I don't know. He had heard a rumor that the A7R3 was not the same full frame sensor. I had never heard that, but I just do the testing you guys ask me to do. So we'll throw that in at the end of this video as well. All right, using central point focus, AFS, I'm just going to show you guys minimal focus and out to about 80 feet. Very snappy. Once you're set up and you're within, 9-10 inches here, the focus is even quicker. And I'll show you guys, you have full direct manual override at any time using the ea4. Now I'll show you guys AFC. With the AFC, a thing to keep in mind is, as I just showed you, it will change within a few inches here, 10 inches from that pole to the feeder. And the pole is only maybe half an inch wide. So if you were tracking a bird or something moving in that area, it would be fine. But watch what happens if you try to go from close focus to long distance. Nothing. It doesn't refocus. Unless you take your finger off, obviously, and then recompose. Also, of course, with the ea4, no touch screen. If you've got the ea3, we can actually just touch the screen, push the shutter button, and it'll focus wherever we've touched. You do not have any of those options with the ea4. So obviously the ea4 would not be my first choice for this camera lens combination. The ea3 will give you much more functionality. You can use expanded flexible spot, eye autofocus, touch screen. Everything that this new wonderful lens is capable of is unlocked with the ea3. I just wanted to show you guys that the ea4 can be used in a pinch. You're just going to be limited to central focus points and not the greatest tracking, etc., but it can be used, and it is fairly snappy if you have to use it. Why don't you guys check out some of the fantastic images I've captured with this lens camera combination, and then we'll do the final section, which is the comparison between the A99 sensor and the A7R3. And finally, the last little test I want to do here, I received a request online to compare a full frame A99 to the A7R3. Someone had heard that the A7R3 wasn't quite full frame size. I don't know, I imagine you could just go and look up the sensor size online and compare. But what we can do secondly is take a shot, a static shot, and overlap one from the A99 and one from the A7R3. Look at the field of view and compare them. So if you've noticed, on the left you can see the edge of the snow comes right out to the edge of the frame. Same thing over here on the right, and then at the bottom I've got varying degrees of needles in the background, and we'll just overlap the two shots and see what they look like. Okay, I have very carefully changed over to the A7R3 with the LA ea4 adapter, and did not move the tripod, I hope. And we'll just compare those two. Just to my eye, it seems like the A7R3 is actually, the field of view looks a little wider, but I could be wrong. Okay, here we are on the computer, guys. A quick search to show the sensor size for the A99 shows 35.8 times 23.8 millimeters. And if we look at the A7R3, we've got 35.9 by 24. So it's actually showing that the A7R3 is slightly bigger in both dimensions than the A99. And that is actually backed up by our test, which I'll show you guys right here. We've got both of these images open. This is the A7R3 image here. This is the A99 image here. If we just go back and forth, you're not really going to notice much difference until you start scrutinizing things like this in the top corner. If we look at this one branch right here, the A99, it's actually getting cut off, and then the A7R3, you can actually see more of it. And that bears out the testing that the sensor is 0.1 of a millimeter bigger, or thereabouts. So in fact, whatever you had heard online, Minolta for life, that the A7R3 was not in fact full frame sensor size, it is. It's actually a hair bigger than the Sony A99 sensor.